Yo, what's going on, y'all? It's Cone back here again today with another video, and the 2023 NBA draft is in the books. It was a really fun one, a bunch of interesting narratives. We didn't get the big-time blockbuster deals that we thought we might, but all around, I had a really good time. I live streamed it here on YouTube, which was a lot of fun. For some reason, my mic was messed up during the whole thing, so I was going to post some clips from it, but those really just don't have great audio. So instead, I thought I'd go ahead and make this full draft recap video. I'm not going to talk about every single pick, but I do want to go over some of my favorite selections, some of my biggest winners of the draft in terms of teams, and also some guys that I think are incredible steals for where they got selected. I do want to quickly note, I'm not a draft expert by any means. I consider myself knowledgeable, but I'm not incredibly educated on every single one of these prospects, just to let you know before we get into this. But yeah, make sure you leave, like, and subscribe if you enjoy. Go ahead and let me know down in the comment section below what you thought about your team's draft and who were some of your favorite selections. Let's get into it. Of course, we have to begin at number 1, and perhaps the biggest winner of the draft just by virtue of being in that spot are the San Antonio Spurs. They get Victor Wembanyama, a generational prospect, the definition of a generational guy. Many draft experts consider him the single greatest prospect in the history of the draft. I said that in a previous video, and a couple of you were saying that I was exaggerating or that it was hyperbole. I'm not the one saying it. That's like draft experts that are saying that he might be the greatest prospect of all time. He's an above 7-footer that can handle the ball. He can shoot. The defense is incredible. He really does everything at a pretty solid rate. Now, the three-point shot is something that still has to come along, but the form looks good. I mean, he hits shots on the move, and also with all the other dominant skills that he has, there's plenty that's going to hold him over until that shot does fully come around. He's going to dominate, in my opinion, from day one in this league. He's going to be impactful. I wouldn't be surprised if he's in all-star conversations this season, and really he's going to transform this Spurs franchise. They really only did this 1 year of tanking because last year they weren't great, but they still had DeJounte Murray, who was an all-star. This is their first year of really tanking, and they end up with maybe the best prospect of all time. I think he's going to work really hard for San Antonio too. Greg Popovich was already talking about how apparently Victor wants to work with David Robinson and Tim Duncan on his game to improve and learn some of their skills, their techniques. He's going to be an unstoppable force in this league, and Spurs fans, I'm sure, are stoked. I would be super excited if Vic ended up on my team, and just by virtue of getting him, they probably are the biggest winners in the draft. Another team that won towards the top of the draft order were the Portland Trail Blazers. I love their draft class, and in particular, the fact that they got Scoot Henderson at the 3rd overall pick is a massive win for them. I've said time and time again that I believe they should push towards a rebuild. They should trade Damian Lillard and make a selection at number 3, especially if Scoot's on the board. And I'm glad they didn't cave for a player that helps them, I guess, win more now, that maybe helps the Blazers make the playoffs, maybe make a second-round push. I think there's no player that they could have added for this 3rd overall pick that would have turned them into a championship contender. So I'm glad they held on to the pick. Hopefully now they push towards a rebuild. The fact that Scoot fell to them at 3 feels like a sign from the basketball gods that you should just go ahead and reset this with him as your franchise cornerstone. They've got a fun young core around him as well of Shaedon Sharpe, Anthony Simons. They got 2 more prospects in this draft as well that I like. Plus, if you trade Dame, you get a bunch more assets as well. I really think Scoot should have gone too. He was clearly my second best prospect in this class. I thought the Hornets were eventually going to go and take him. Instead, they took Brandon Miller, who I hope is really good in the end, because I know he's getting a lot of hate right now from Hornets fans. There's that viral video going around of Hornets fans at the arena losing their minds when Brandon Miller was the pick. Even the Hornets mascot kind of fell over in sadness. I really hope Brandon Miller proves all those people wrong, and me too, as someone who thinks that Scoot should have gone 2nd overall. I love when guys go ahead and defy expectations. So hopefully Brandon Miller is good, but I do think that Scoot going to the Blazers here at number 3 is an absolute steal. I also like Chris Murray for them if they do decide to try and remain a bit competitive. I think he can contribute right away. I really like what he brings to the table. And they got Ran Repair in the 2nd round, someone that a lot of people thought could go a lot earlier. He's much more of a swing type of player, but ultimately, when you're a team like the Blazers that could be going towards a rebuild, and even the fact that it's just a 2nd round pick when you already got Scoot, Chris Murray, and have an interesting young core in place already, why not take a swing on a guy like him in that 2nd round? I think the Blazers had a pretty good draft, and hopefully they continue on this rebuilding path. Right behind them at the 4th overall pick, the Houston Rockets also had a really good draft. I like Amen Thompson a lot for that team. They need a franchise point guard. I know Kevin Porter Jr. has kind of been playing that role over the past few seasons. I just don't think he's your lead ball handler on a championship type team. I think he could be a phenomenal 6-man for that squad, but I think Amin Thompson a lot more fits that role of a facilitator that can help improve the play of a lot of guys in this roster. It's a type of archetype that I think this team has really been needing. He's going to help Jalen Green a lot more get to his spots. He's going to help Jabari Smith Jr. a lot, having that playmaker. For a player like Jabari, who's more of a catch and shoot, you got to kind of set him up type player. I think that's going to be huge, so I'm excited to see what he does. The athleticism, too, with him and Jalen Green as a backcourt is going to be so much fun to watch. The Rockets just got infinitely more entertaining as a team last season. It was such a slog to watch them play basketball, and now they add the athleticism, the playmaking, the creativity of Amin Thompson, who has one of the highest ceilings in this draft. I love that pick at number 4 for them. And also, all the way at pick 20, they got Cam Whitmore, who was one of the biggest storylines of this entire draft, going from somebody that in a couple of mock drafts I saw going number 4 to the Rockets there, instead falling to them all the way at the 20th overall pick. There's a couple of reports about why he could have fallen. Some people are saying that there was some concerns about his knees. It's an issue that he had in high school, and they worry that maybe that's going to be something that carries over into his NBA career. Hopefully not. There's also some reports coming from Woj on ESPN that he didn't interview super well, that there were some issues with his individual workouts. So it seems like a combination of reasons caused Cam Whitmore to fall, but taking a swing on him at 20 is incredible value. Again, a player that many people saw as potentially going 4 to the Rockets, 5 to the Pistons, and it felt like he would fall no further than like 7 to the Pacers, maybe 8 to the Wizards if he really fell. Instead, he falls all the way to pick 20. He's another incredible athlete, and now you have him, Jalen Green, and Amin Thompson. The dunks are going to be ridiculous. The athleticism, the rim pressure that they can put on opposing teams is super fun. And if he's able to stay healthy, we could look back and think to ourselves in a few seasons, how did Cam Whitmore fall this far, all the way to pick 20? Maybe this is a similar situation to Michael Porter Jr., where MPJ had some concerns about his back, which have plagued him at times, but when he stayed healthy, he's been amazing, and he's been an incredible value pick for the Nuggets there at 14. The Rockets take a similar risk in Cam Whitmore, but even if he doesn't pan out, it was just the 20th overall pick, and you've already got an incredibly talented young core. I think this is a perfect opportunity for the Rockets to take a high value swing on a prospect like Cam, and again, if he pans out, the Rockets have an A+++ grade for this draft. Right after Amin Thompson went to the Rockets at 4, we had his twin brother Asar Thompson going to the Pistons at number 5, another pick that I really like, especially if his shooting comes along. That is the big swing factor for him in this draft. If it hits, he's going to be such a special player. I'm hoping that it does, because if he's able to shoot, you put him next to Caden Ivey with the 1, 2, 3 spots, that's going to be one of the most fun trios in the entire league to watch. I'm super excited to see what he does over there in Detroit. And also, I just want to note how cool the story is of 2 twin brothers and Asar and Amin Thompson going back-to-back as top 5 picks in the NBA draft. It's just an awesome moment. Next, I want to move to the Utah Jazz, whose draft I really liked, getting 3 players that I think all fit different roles for this team. Starting off with Taylor Hendricks, there at the 9th overall pick. I know a bunch of people became big fans of him leading up to the draft, and I'm in that category. I loved his versatility that he showed at UCF, especially the defensive play. He's going to be a monster. I mean, defense with him and Walker Kessler in the front court is going to be absurd over there in Utah. I love that selection for them. It felt like he would fall no further than the next pick down at number 10. So the Jazz go ahead and snag him here. One of the most rapid risers in this entire class. I think he's going to be really fun over there. A front court of him, Lauri Markkanen, and Walker Kessler, the size, the versatility. It's going to be really fun. And even if he never turns into like a star player, he's at the very least going to be an incredibly impactful role player in this league for so many years. So I think this is a great selection for Utah here at 9. Meanwhile, they also got some really good value on getting Keontae George and Bryce Sensabaugh later in the first round. Keontae has gotten a lot of comparisons to Anthony Simons, a really fun shot creating and shot making guard that definitely has some work to do overall on rounding out his game, but for right now could be a go-to bucket getter at some point. You've also got Bryce Sensabaugh, who's the definition of a guy who's going to get you some buckets. They got him towards the end of the first round, and I know a lot of people had him mocked way earlier, so getting 2 talented guys that can go ahead and provide you with some shot creation and shot making, as well as a versatile forward in Taylor Hendricks, I think that's a great haul in this draft. The first time the Utah Jazz are drafting in this new era, and I think all their picks were really good. Next, let's go to the 10th overall pick, where the Oklahoma City Thunder traded up with the Mavericks to take Cason Wallace. The deal was the Thunder move up a couple of spots, the Mavericks move back a couple of spots to pick 12, and the Thunder take on Davis Bertans' contract. So he's now in the books for Oklahoma City. Some people were upset about that, saying, oh, we have no cap space, but the Thunder never signed free agents, so I don't know what we would use that cap space for, and we get to move up a couple of spots to get Cason Wallace, who reportedly the Raptors Raptors were interested in maybe trading up to get at pick 11 and jumping us. So we get our guy, we use that cap space that we weren't going to use anyways. I think this is an A+ trade, and Cason Wallace is an A+ prospect to me. I became such a big fan of him over the past couple of weeks, the more that I watched of his game. I said this on Twitter a couple of times, actually. You can go check the receipts. I'm not lying about this just because he's a Thunder player. I think he's going to be one of the most impactful players in terms of winning in this entire class from day one. He might be the best perimeter defender in the entire draft class right now. He's an elite guard that played really well at Kentucky. The defense, again, is easily his best trait, both on and off ball. He's going to lock up opposing scores. And you imagine a defense that consists of him, Lou Dort, Chet Holmgren as a rim protector coming back into things, Shea's jump on defense, what J-Dub showed this past season defensively. The Thunder are building a defensive juggernaut in Oklahoma City that teams are going to be scared of for years to come. I love the idea of putting him in that backcourt. He's also got some really solid playmaking skills. I think his offense is better than what people are giving it credit for. He dealt with a back injury last year at Kentucky, which after he suffered it, his shooting really took a dip. So I think his shooting is going to be a lot better than people are realizing by looking at the numbers. He's going to be so good. I've seen some Thunder fans upset that we took a guard, saying that we already have too many of them and that we needed a big. I don't think we needed a big. Chet Holmgren is going to be our center. We've got Jay Will to play the backup center spot, so I think we've already got a couple of bigs there. Some people are saying that, why didn't we draft a guy who's going to start for us? Why are we drafting a bench guy in Cason Wallace? Nobody that we could have drafted at pick 10 would have started for us. I don't even think if Taylor Hendricks fell to us, he would have started, because you're not benching Shea, Giddey, Dort, J-Dub, or Chet. All those guys are going to start off the bat. So I don't understand why people are upset about this pick. Plus, we can always use more guards. I mean, we still don't have that backup one spot solidified. Trey Mann was potentially going to be that player, but he didn't have a great past season. So we'll see what ends up happening with him. And now bringing in Cason Wallace, it kind of forms a bit of that competition there, which maybe helps Trey Mann kind of get back to the player we saw in his rookie season. You've also got Isaiah Joe there as a shooter, so you put a defensive guy next to him and Cason Wallace potentially in that bench backcourt. I think they could both be really successful. I've seen some people ask, is Cason Wallace the Lou Dort replacement? I don't think he has to be anybody's replacement. I think we just got a really good winning type of player that's going to contribute from day one. And if he does end up becoming a guy that's worthy of being a starter, that's something we figure out down the line. Adding on top of a selection that I really like with Wallace at 10, the Thunder also get Keontae Johnson at 50, a guy out of Kansas State who was really solid this past season. He's physical, but also shoots over 40% from three on 3 attempts per game. He's a wing player, and Sam Presti was saying after the draft that he expects that Keontae could be a contributor right away. So we just add another versatile wing who can help space the floor. I really love this draft. I know I'm probably kind of biased being a Thunder fan and picking us as one of the biggest winners of the draft, but I think even objectively, I think we got a really good couple of selections that are going to help this team both now and in the long term. One of my favorite fits in this entire draft might have been Jarris Walker to the Indiana Pacers. It felt like this was mocked all across the board. Everybody knew that if Jarris was there for the Pacers, they weren't going to pass on him. They do end up taking him. It's a seamless fit. It makes a ton of sense. You add some physicality and defense to a team that I do think needs it in Indiana. Plus, I think his offensive upside is way higher than people are realizing. And you put him next to Miles Turner there at a position of need in the 4, you've got a really fun defensive duo. I think he is going to add a lot to that team that now is the young core of him, Benedict Mathurin, Tyrese Halliburton, amongst others. I really like what Indiana is building over there. Not to mention the fact that they got extra value with the pick because the Wizards traded up, swapping picks with them, giving them a couple second rounders so that they could select Bilal Coulibaly, who I do like a lot for Washington. I think it makes a ton of sense for them in the beginning of the rebuild to take a swing on a player like him, but the Pacers get a couple of second round picks, maybe the best player available, someone at a position of need. It's a home run selection. Plus they got Ben Shepherd later on in the first round, who I don't know a ton about, but from what I've seen of his game, I like a lot and feel like he could be a player that fits exactly what Indiana needs in that spot. The Timberwolves also deserve a shout out for getting Leonard Miller at pick 32. He was someone that was projected to go as early as the lottery, if not like in the mid-teens. Instead, he falls to the early second round and they get him out of the G League Ignite. He's a very unorthodox player. He's like a bigger wing type of guy that has shown some really intriguing skills. The three-point shot is something that definitely needs to come along for him, but overall, he is a really interesting archetype of player, and I think getting him at this spot is great value for Minnesota, and if he's able to pan out, this could be one of the biggest steals of the entire draft. Speaking of potential steals, I really like Jariq Whitehead to the Brooklyn Nets. I like the idea of them taking a swing on a player that was one of the top guys coming into college before he was not great, mostly due to injuries. Now, if he can go ahead and bounce back to that player that he showed he could be, me, he could be an incredible talent in this league. And being a team in Brooklyn that doesn't have a ton of draft capital going forward, why not take a swing on a guy right now like him? I love this selection here for the Brooklyn Nets. I also really like the Lakers taking a shot on Maxwell Lewis out of Pepperdine at pick 40. He's got some really intriguing scoring upside, got a lot of length, and some solid physical tools that could potentially turn him into a really solid defender. So I like that swing a lot for LA. I also do like Jalen Hood-Schifino for them as well at pick 17. He's an interesting combo guard type of player that, if he develops, he could be really impactful pretty soon. So I think the Lakers had a pretty good draft. Finally, I want to give a shout to the Warriors for selecting Trayce Jackson-Davis towards the end of the draft. I thought he was going to go in the first round somewhere in the 20s, and instead they get him all the way in the last few picks. I think he's going to be a really fun piece over there. I think he fits well what they're trying to do in Golden State, and we're going to look back and say, how did we let the Warriors get a guy like him all the way at the end here? So yeah, I think those are my biggest winners and favorite picks of the draft. There's a couple of other teams and players that I could talk about in this video, but it's probably already going kind of long, and I've been recording videos nonstop over the past few days with the trades, with the draft live stream. So there's a lot going on, so I'm just going to go ahead and wrap it here. If you want to know my thoughts on your favorite team's draft or another player that I didn't mention in this video, go ahead and comment down below, and I'll make sure to reply to as many of those comments as I can. Also, again, please go ahead and grade your team's draft. Let me know what you thought about it in the comments too, so I can get some information on how fans of certain teams feel. And yeah, hopefully you enjoyed your team's draft. This was a really fun experience for me personally. I might go to the draft in person next year. I am living in New York. I decided to live stream it last night, but maybe I'll actually go to it next year, so I could do like a vlog or something like that. Let me know if that's something y'all would be interested in seeing. It's a year away, so I don't have to think about it too much now, but I'd love to hear what y'all have to say about that. And yeah, as always, I appreciate y'all watching. I'll see y'all later. Real one, say it back.